Memorandum 2022-05, responsibilities of sheriffs and police in the November 8th, 2022 general election. And also, we have a walk-on agenda item that was issued last night, Directive 2022-47, the unofficial and official canvass of the November 8th, 2022 general election sets forth the specifics of how the canvass is to be conducted on election night. If there is a second.
Second.
Any question or comment for staff? Mr. James, thank you for the summaries. You provide those?
Yes.
Thank you. And they're very helpful. I have no other questions either. Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. And on to the authorization for bipartisan teams of employees to receive absentee ballots outside the office of the board in accordance with Directive 2022-45. I will move to adopt that schedule. I'll ask just Director Pilati if you can just comment on that. Is it consistent with the directive we received?
Yes. So Directive 2022-45 authorizes or allows boards of elections to put together a schedule to have bipartisan teams be outside the Board of Elections collecting absentee ballots in a portable collection box. And a lot of this is to help with traffic mitigation. And so what we are proposing or asking approval for is we do want to participate in this process. Part of the directive is you have to, one, get affirmative vote of the board, but you also have to publish a schedule. So what we are confident that we will be able to staff are the 3 weekend days that we have early in-person voting, which are on Saturday, October 29th, Saturday, November 5th, and Sunday, November 6th. So we would be open for those hours that we're open for early in-person voting, as well as the Friday before the election, November 4th, and Monday before the election, November 7th, which is the last day of early in-person voting. And again, we would have that outside supplemental collection equal to the hours that we were open for early in-person voting. The directive does set out criteria that it needs to be a team of at least one Republican and one Democrat. We have to have signage that we would have in our permanent drop box, work with security services to ensure that we have a security presence with that. And again, publish this schedule on our website, social media accounts. So we would do all those things and everything else that would be accounted for in the directive. We did something similar in 2020, but on a much different scale, much smaller scale. And this year, we would be doing this collection by our parking lot on East 30th. And it would just be in that vicinity there.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Pilati? Okay, I have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Aye. Motion's adopted. And on to the final, I'll move to approve the final approval of the ballot order for the November 8th, 2022 general election. There's a second.
Second.
Thank you. Are there question or comment for the staff? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
On to move to authorize to pay 286 voting location managers at $275 apiece, total $78,650, 314 voting location deputies at $275 apiece for $86,350, 3,162 precinct election officials at $250 a person for $790,500, 286 sanitation precinct election officials at $200 a person a day for $57,200, and 150 election substitute officials at $100 a person, $15,000 for the November 8th, 2022 general election. That's our personnel costs. If there's a second.
Second.
Any question or comment? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. And I move to acknowledge Secretary of State November 8th, 2022 general election precincts election official training grant program. There's a second.
Second.
Could you briefly, Mr. Pilati or Mr. Gallagher, tell us about that?
So what seems to happen is in the even year general elections, the Secretary of State's office makes precinct election official training funding grants available.
Okay.
And the Secretary of State's office, whatever their formula is, they come up with a dollar amount that they would award to the different 88 counties. Not the same amount, but for Cuyahoga County, the dollar amount based on their formula comes out to $83,204. In order to do that, we have to then provide to the Secretary of State's office a plan on how we would expend those funds. And they do have some areas that the funding is eligible for, materials and payment to trainers and rental fees and things like that. So what Cuyahoga County, what we were doing is we want to use a portion of the dollars to help pay, offset some of our PEO training instructor salaries that we have, as well as de-escalation training, which is a bigger initiative that we're pushing through this election cycle and through our Practice Makes Perfect that we do closer to election day. Individuals who come will get training on equipment, but also get access to de-escalation training videos and some other instruction from our trainers. So that's on the plan. And then we are trying to get additional materials to help with training. So new laptops for our trainers, things that are more durable, have bigger memory, so we can in fact show training videos, de-escalation videos at poll places, and the things that support that, such as speakers and carrying cases, and then carts to get things from poll workers' cars into the training locations, as well as we asked for funding for some of the ways in which we communicate with our poll workers, such as text messaging and phone calls, which is my calls and constant contact. So we provide this plan to the Secretary of State's office. They review, and then they give you the thumbs up, thumbs down, and we got the okay on that. We have not yet received the check, but it has been approved, and so we'll just wait on that. And in the meantime, that allows the election officials department to go ahead and plan accordingly for some of these things, and Robin, some of the procurement working with Sean Kita to get the things in motion.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. Any other questions for staff? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I will move to authorize to process the payment in the amount not to exceed $46,660 for 93 private voting locations, 3 CMHE properties, and 1 zone station being used for the November 8th, 2022 general election. If there's a second.
Second.
Any question or comment? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. And final, I'll move to approve the final authorization for the allocation of voting booths for the November 8th, 2022 general election. Allocation quantities are based on social distancing and room size for polling location. A total of 4,567 voting booths will be allocated, plus 722 DS200 precinct scanners and 286 ADA auto marking voting units and 980 electronic poll books. If there's a second.
Second.
Thank you. Any question or comment? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. No human resource agenda items today. You want an election update, Mr. Pilati?
Sure. So today is the opening of non-UOCAVA absentee voting. The hours for voting are 8 to 5 this week, Wednesday through Friday. So far, a little bit after 9 o'clock this morning, we had 50 voters who've come through the doors already today. We would expect somewhere between 400 and 500 people coming in per day for the first part of the window. So we're off to a good start in that regard. We have the back parking lot. The permanent employees have been relocated to alternate parking, so that is now all available for voter parking. And we have increased the number of ADA accessible parking to everything along the fence. We do have overflow parking, which is south of the building in a lot, in which we do have signage out on 30th indicating where the driveway is to that lot. And John Eddy has created a map for us to put on our website so people can see as they put together their voting plan. So that we're off on that part. Today is also the first day in which we can now mail out vote by mail ballots. In today's mail, we'll have about 60,000 vote by mail ballots that will be going out in the mail today, with the ballots going out on a daily basis. And by Saturday's mail, we will have the first, about the 120,000 applications that we received will be out through this Saturday. So that is going as planned. There was a change in the ballot layout a little bit ago where we had to add a name to the ballot, which we did. That took about 2 to 3 days of printing off the schedule because staff had to re-engage in the proofing process. But again, this Saturday will be in good shape. The Track My Ballot tool on our website for those individuals who have ballots going out today, it'll reflect that. The other individuals, it'll say that their ballot will be out by Saturday, and then come next week, everybody who would go to Track My Ballot will see the date in which their ballot was mailed. So we're in a good position with that. Applications are still coming in, but not at a big clip. So probably between 1,000 and a few thousand a day. But as long as we continue to do that, we should hopefully get up to about 170,000, which is what we think. Compared back to about 4 years ago, we're about 7,000 applications less where we were at this point in time in 2018. So, but that was within striking distance, pretty good. Precinct election officials, we're doing very, very well with our recruitment of those individuals. If we had to conduct an election today, we could do it, which is good. But we also know realistically that people will fall out as we get closer to election day. But we also have applications that we're still processing to get individuals into training. So come about 4 weeks from now, or about that, we will have sufficient resources.
Excuse me, Director Polite, can training be done remotely? Is it all done remotely, or is it hybrid?
It depends on if you're a new poll worker or a returning poll worker. If you're a new poll worker, you have to come to in-person training and conduct it that way. If you are a returning worker, that training is online. So we have both options that we're utilizing. Because we had 2 elections this year already, that's part of the main reason why we're in the position that we are now, especially with August being such close proximity to this.
Thank you.
So that's good. We do have student poll workers. I don't know if this is the first election in which we'll have student poll workers this year, and that's just because the school schedule matches up with the November election. So that we're happy to have the students back there. And we've been putting more focus now too on getting our backup poll workers, of which we know that we will need those on election day for those call offs. And we're probably about, I would say, maybe a third of the way where we want to be with that. But I feel good that we'll get where we need to there. Yesterday was a closed registration for this election from regular business hours closing at 4:30 till registration deadline at 9 o'clock. We had about 1,900 registrations get dropped off. So quite a bit. A lot of those came from one source, which is a registration campaign drive that's been going throughout the state. So they brought those in. So with what we got in that 4:30 to 9 window, plus what we had in the hopper, it's about 3,500 registration cards for us to process. We do have staff out in the field today going to the libraries in Cuyahoga County, picking up any registrations that were dropped off at the libraries yesterday. Those we'll have all those back probably by midday tomorrow, and Betty and her team will go ahead and continue to process those through. Typically, by about Monday of next week, we have all of our cards in for the election, and these will be considered timely, even though they're being put in after the registration, because they've been time-stamped or received an appropriate amount of time. We will, by week's end, start to receive our election day ballots that we will send out to the polls. We'll do quality assurance on those when they come in, and then election support. Vic and his team will also be handed off to him, and he will start to pre-assemble the delivery packets for our third-party mover Bermans to come pick up materials. Bermans will come on October 19th, which I believe is a week from today, and start to pick up some of the locations for delivery out to polling locations. So we're clicking on all things that we should be, that we need to regarding this election. So I don't want to jinx anything, but things are running as they should at this point. One small thing I want to add that is kind of related to the election is that we had some litigation regarding the East Cleveland mayor, and the Supreme Court handed down a ruling yesterday, and that deals with the mayor, Brandon King, of which the writ of mandamus was denied. We already had Mayor King on the ballot, so for us, it's just continue on the way he is. So we don't need to make any changes as far as our execution of that. And there was another individual who tried to intervene, and that was denied. And Mark did a nice job representing the board in that regard. Maybe some questions for me.
For Mr. Musson, there is no ongoing litigation pertaining to this election here in Cuyahoga County.
No, correct. That was the end of it.
Thank you for the update, Director Pallotti. I know we'll be coming back here on November 3rd for our final meeting before the election.
Right.
Any board members have anything they want to add? We do have some public comment. Ben, go to
Well, I just a question. Did you say so we're 7,000 behind where we were in 2018 or around?
Yes. So we have about 123,000 applications now,
Okay.
and we were at 130,000 at this point in time
All right.
in 2018.
But does that account for maybe also more foot traffic than in the past? Sometimes more people come in. I
That's
mean, do you think
just
we're gonna
straight up.
hit about even, it sounds like?
We will, and those
Okay.
numbers, that's straight up mail. That
Oh,
doesn't include
okay.
the related
All right.
percent.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, we
I have
have.
one
Oh, please. Mr. Cap.
So you're in-person voting, are those printed here?
Those ballots? No, so the Midwest Director, our print vendor, they pre-print that, and so those ballots started coming in on Thursday of last week. And then staff unboxed them, and behind the check-in stations, there's a secure room, double lock system in there, security cameras, all that good stuff, in which we have a ballot wall. So it's a pick and pull as people come in. We go ahead and pick the ballot that they need, and then we monitor the quantities. And at some point in the cycle, we'll probably have to put a supplemental order in, because you just never know
You
what
know.
community is going to come down and take advantage, because there are some repeat customers, but sometimes you get surprised. Especially too, depending on what kind of issues are on the ballot.
Sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Public comment from Reverend Pamela M. Pinckney. Good morning, Reverend
Good morning,
Pinckney.
everybody.
We have 5 minutes for you if you want to proceed, please.
Absolutely. According to the word of God, or the Bible, as some would call it, when the righteous or those who seek good are in leadership, then good is presented for the people. But when the wicked are in place, then disaster takes place. And right now, we have some serious issues going on in this country. The voting and voting rights and voting responsibilities. I want to first of all thank you for item number 5, precinct election officials getting some type of income. That's a beginning for what I have been asking you to do. And I thank you for not ignoring me when I do come down here and taking the matters that I bring to you very seriously. Previous administration was very difficult in not doing so. And I really do appreciate this new beginning in my life. The law also states that voting is not only a right and a responsibility, but it's to be fair and equal to all people. And I thank you for working on making that better and fair. And Director Pallotti, I sent you an email today. I have some documents for you, Chairperson Hastings, the attorney, and Director Pallotti, as well as the rest of the board of elections. And I saw Governor DeWine at the Lincoln dinner in Akron when they were honoring him. And he told me what I needed to do to get us more ballot boxes, and it's not happening. So I brought a document that I wrote to the Ohio Attorney General, since everything's going in with the law anyway, in reference to this, and you all can follow up. And one of the things that they don't want to do is deal with individuals. They rather deal with corporations or entities. And my entities, they're not familiar with, so they're not working with me quite well yet. So you can take it and run for that. One ballot box, or the boxes for Cuyahoga County is unreasonable, to say the least, for so many people. And I also asked you in this document to please do a formal investigation against the former director, Jane Platten, for violations of my voting rights, which are inclusive but not limited to ballot tampering and violations of my protection orders, which caused me to be in other places, and also dealing with the fact that there were some interstate compact agreements made that caused my voting rights to be violated as well as my safety. Women are women. Not all women are good, not all women are bad, but the bad ones need to be dealt with. And when I came down here to address my situation that you cleared up for me, Director Pilati and Assistant Director Gallagher, when I came down here previously, Director Platten came out of her office screaming and hollering at me. And then when I addressed it, they moved her to the prosecutor's office. Then she went down to the prosecutor's office and caused confusion, slandering me. Then she went, now she's at Metro, where she's messing with my medical records. And I have things now, went to my doctor 3 weeks ago, and things are in my medical records that are not accurate, which follows the trail of Jane Platten and the former Mayor Jane Campbell. Now I'm throwing these names out here because it's important on who we do and deal with, because we must know who labors among us. We do not want a riot or war in this country over our voting rights and people's responsibilities. We do not want a racial war. We do not want a religious war in this country because people's voting rights are being violated. I thank you for just being so kind, compassionate, considerate, and caring of my concerns. And I thank you for the sacrifices you have made, multiple sacrifices you have made to keep me safe even in such a time as this, especially you, Director Pilati and Assistant Director Gallagher. It's very important to me. I have never not voted. And the only one time I did not vote was in this primary election because of my safety. And I really do. And Chairperson Hastings, I appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Reverend.
And I have,
Ms. Skip will take that.
okay, this is for you.
Right.
One for the director and one for your attorney, because if we run into any legal problems, I'm willing to stand up to the platform with you.
Okay, thank you, Reverend, for coming down and addressing us today. Have a good day. All right, Mr. Bradley Lynette. Thank you. Hi, Mr. Lynette, if you would just give us your name and address, and you have 5 minutes to address us, sir.
Sure. First name Bradley, last name is Lynette. I live at 4047 West 204th Street, Fairview Park.
Thank you.
Members of the board, director, hi. A concerned citizen, I'm interested in free and fair elections. It has not been happening for quite some time in this country, I'm afraid. I'm not a politician, or I'm not running for any office, not at least of us. I'm not attempting to subvert our elections, but rather improve upon them. I do not consent to the current voting system. I live in the United States, state of Ohio, Cuyahoga County, the city of Fairview Park, all of which are corporations. And it's the corporations, not the people, that are running this government, not the way it was designed. Our counties are the gateways to the national election system. Our state legislators, through yet unproven manipulations, were convinced that electronic voting machines were acceptable. They are not. Garbage in means garbage out. I have nothing against technology, but we need mechanical means for counting our votes, not electronics. Mechanical typewriters were once used for producing hard copy documents. Then with the advent of word processing, originals could be changed with the click of a mouse. Now our votes could just simply be clicked away. I've seen it done. No honest person would do that, but it is possible and unacceptable. So to try and prevent that, cybersecurity by the federal government through the Department of Homeland Security now controls our sovereign state elections. So much for election transparency. And what about mail-in ballots? We can't take copies of our own votes because I'm told we could somehow show those and get paid for that vote. But what is to stop someone with a mail-in ballot from getting paid to complete it? What is to prevent partisan harvesting of ballots at nursing homes and senior living centers? Mail-in should be reserved only for those overseas and legitimately infirm, not for the masses. It's not so much the mail-in ballots are the question, it's the mail-out ballots that concern. Those are being custom printed, stuffed and mailed by third-party outside firm without inspection of each individual ballot before. And lastly, for now, I can't get within 100 feet of a polling location with any kind of printed material promoting a candidate. Yet Frank LaRose has signs with his name on it down there where people are voting right now. I had to move my car because I have a Trump bumper sticker on it to the parking lot across the street just now. On a recent visit to the Board of Elections building for a demonstration over there, somebody made me turn my shirt inside out because I had a candidate's name on it. Yet inside that same building was a person wearing a Frank LaRose Secretary of State shirt. That is also a candidate. I understand he's Secretary of State, but he's also bidding for it. Rules for the, not for me. I hope Cuyahoga County Board is acting in what you believe is the best interest of our nation and the state, but I haven't yet discerned if Cuyahoga County Board of Elections is playing along or being played. The federal government has absolutely no business in Ohio state elections, yet Mr. LaRose has not only permitted it, he has encouraged, promoted, and installed it. He doesn't want any more knowing anything. He doesn't want anyone knowing anything about it. That is deception, not transparency. LaRose himself has given him powers that he's not legally entitled to take. He issues confidential directives, even though the Supreme Court recently ruled that LaRose acted in clear disregard of the law. To me, that shows a criminal is running our elections. As far as I've been able to ascertain, Frank LaRose was elected in a year when voting machines had not been certified. So was he really elected? Thing is, those directives are not at all confidential. Anyone who wants can find them. I have. Nothing electronic is secure. I have copies for anybody who would like to see them. I will not share the directives I've seen for facility security intended for law enforcement. Those are also available. The most recent directive is disturbing. He's telling boards what information must be kept confidential and not disclosed, hinting of terrorism regarding 2020 elections. Nobody seeks private voter information. We legally ask for those records to be retained so the whole picture on 2020 elections can be seen. But Mr. LaRose and his DHS overlords want those documents destroyed because they will likely implicate them, not the boards. I believe retaining those 2020 records is for the benefit of the boards. Thank you all for allowing me to speak. I certainly don't have all the answers, but I hope I provoked some questions. In closing, I do not consent.
Thank you, Mr. Lynette, for your thoughtful comments. We appreciate your time coming down. Any other public comments, Skip? Mary? Oh, that's it? Okay. Thank you. Hearing having no other business, I will move to adjourn today's meeting. We'll be back on November 3rd. Just a second.
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 All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Have a wonderful week, everybody.
Yeah, you know.